For me, my financial independence simply mean, can I do things that I want to do? Do I have enough resources? Because let's just face it, things are not free in this world. Like,
Hey everyone, my name is Kajal and welcome to my channel. Today I'm interviewing Bhumi and we are talking about financial independence. In this interview, we talk about what financial independence means to her struggles to secure a loan for pursuing her master's, and how she managed to pay off her loans in 2 years after graduating. Before we get into it, if you're new here, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're notified every time I come up with a new video. So let's get into it. Let's start with an introduction. Bhumi, can you tell us a little bit about you?
hello everyone, I'm Bhumi. I was born and raised in Mumbai. I came to US for my master's. I am an electrical engineer. I graduated from Georgia Tech, and it's been a decade that I have in US. Been with two tech giants.
And what are the two tech giants? One is Intel, right?
Yeah, my previous company was Intel, and right now I work for Juniper Networks.
What do you think about financial independence and why do you think it's important?
One thing that I have realized is finance is a very limited resource, so you have to prioritize and figure out how you want to plan it. It's, nobody has infinite bit of money. Even the richest don't have it. It's still finite. So for me, it has been very important, and that is one of the factors that I personally feel drives confidence. Being able to just pay your bills, rent, electricity, everything is just a big confidence booster. It makes you feel like you own your life, no matter how good or bad or how messy it gets, but you still own it.
So let's get into how you decided to come to US for your masters and how finance played a role in it.
So I do not come, like in India, I do not come from a very high earning family groups. So when I was in my undergrad college in India, I actually used to take tuitions to be able to pay for my books. My finance journey starts that early, that I that's when I learned how to go to bank, even small things like deposit my own check. That's when I did decide that, what, I want to do my master's, and I had to find a way to do it. So I had a plan A and I had a plan B. My plan A was that, okay, I'm going to go ask dad that, what, will you be able to support me? My dad is like, I think it's pretty clear that it's not like a possibility for, my dad to really support me financially. So I'm like, okay, fine, plan B, let's go to the banks. So I did go to like HDFC, ICICI and SBI in India. And all three banks rejected my education loan. So then I was like, man, I can't go to US. And then I tried applying for, like, from India, when you make applications, I was like, oh yeah, let's try getting some assistantship. But I didn't find it that easy. So I was like, okay. I then turned, I was talking to my mom that, then I'm going to delay my master's for 2 years. I'm going to go earn some cash so that I can build up my finances so that I can get a master's degree. So my mom was like, okay, that is your one way. Or you can also ask help from uncles. So I was like, I'm not too sure about that part, But eventually it did get sorted and I was able to get my loan from my family. And then I came to US. I got my master's. Knock on the wood. I also had job when I graduated so that I was able to pay all those loans that I had incurred from family. So
So sorry to hear that you had to go through that struggle, but it makes you stronger, right? Now you know everything about loans.
Oh, I am not sorry at all. Although my loans were rejected, I was able to learn a lot about Indian banking system.
Right. So now tell us a little bit about how it was after you came to the US. So a lot of students who come to US for their masters, they do part-time jobs or they opt for assistantships. So people who don't know what assistantship is, it's basically doing either administrative work for departments or working under a professor. You could be teaching classes or working in labs, and they would give you a stipend. Sometimes they give you tuition fee waivers or a portion of tuition fee waiver, and sometimes they give you health insurances. So how about you? Did you do part-time positions? Did you secure any assistantships? What was that like?
So when I got to US, I tried to apply for some of the campus jobs in libraries and front desk and the housing dorm department. But I wasn't able to secure because most of them went to a lot of CS folks. So that was fine. But the thing is, in the first semester, I one of my courses, like the credits I took, was for the assistantship with the professor. I was working in researching with him, and through him, I knew of Chorus Lab in Georgia Tech, and I had taken a parallel processing course with professor. And like that summer I spoke to him that, oh, you know what, I like to work in the lab because I just found work very interesting. Like whatever they were doing, it was more of heterogeneous computing and stuff like that. So I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. It was more computer architecture and I was starting to like it. So I was like, oh, you know what, can I come and work at the lab? So he gave me a position for summer, and that got converted into an RA, the research assistantship for my last semester. So for my last semester, my fees were waived. So that's how, like, that semester got taken care of, that I had an assistantship.
Okay, so after graduating, you said that you started working for Intel, and you did have some loans, even though third semester was waived off, the first semester and second semester, and probably living expenses and so on and so forth. What was it that you did to help pay off that loan? Or how long did it take for you to pay off that loan?
So even there, I was lucky that I was in state of Oregon. So my living expenses weren't as high as being in California or being in New York. So my rents and everything was pretty low. But there were some choices that I made. One was I did not learn how to drive, and that's why I did not own a car. I made sure I lived within like a mile walking distance from my company. And where I lived, the grocery store was also like right in, like you just cross your road and the complex opposite is like, the strip mall where there is grocery stores and stuff. So that's how even the location was chosen, that I really don't need car for all my basic things. So for 3 years, I did not have a car. So that was something that saved quite a lot of money in the start. And I used to walk at a lot of places. And to be honest, the first 6 months when I started earning, I did have a lot of spending. And most of these spending were on, oh, getting a nicer bed, getting a nicer desk. Like, when we were student, we didn't have the luxury to own all those. So yes, for the first 6 months, I was like, and then suddenly one day I realized, man, I'm just spending too much. Like it's like 6 months. And I had a target that, by the end of this year, I want to pay off all the loan that I took from my uncles. And then my dad. So I was like, okay, I need to save. So I had a plan. And 6 months down the line, I am like, you know what? My bank balance doesn't say what I should have been having. Like it doesn't match. So I'm like, I got to get my game straight. And that's when I'm like, okay, cut down all these spending. And then I used to use an app. Like there are multiple apps to, track your spending. So I used to use a spending tracker, and I used to put down everything. Like even if I got a coriander bunch for $1, I would just put it, today I have spent $1 on this. And like I used to really track all the minor expenses. It could be anything, like not a single dollar can go unaccounted for. And that's when like it changed, and I could see month over month my finances building up, and I'm getting back on the trajectory. And I think in the first 1 year, I finished up the loan, paying loan to my uncles, and then next year I finished loan to my dad, and I also bought a house for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Paying off your loans and buying a house. That is amazing, Bhumi. So, one tip that you definitely shared was tracking your expenses and being conscious. Another was choosing a location where you can walk and you don't have to own a car. So, that would lead to a big saving.
Yeah.
What else would you suggest others, or what else would you say is a good investment, or how else can one manage their finances better?
So yes, another thing would be having an early on investment in retirement. Like this is something that my first manager taught me. He was like, you are really young, so you got to spend your money on yourself too, because you don't want to get to 40s and think, oh, I spend all my time just earning and not enjoying finer things in life that I have. But it was his advice that you also got to make sure that there is a small portion that you always save for your retirement. When you are in your 20s, let that portion be smaller, and that has to increase as you age, and it should be maximum in your 30s and 40s.
Great insight. Thank you so much, Bhumi, for doing this interview. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe.